Now, several parts of Accra have been left flooded after early Tuesday morning downpour. Now, commuters in and around Teshi, Kaneshi, Madina, Tetakwashe and Kwame Nkrumah Circle seem to be worse. Many people heading to work this morning were left in long traffic jams as major roads and bridges were overtaken by floods. A number of them have had to park their vehicles and wait for the rain to subside before continuing their journeys. Checks by JoyNews, however, show a number of the traveling public in and around the capital city are still yet to make their way out of traffic to their various destinations. Let's bring you sight and sounds of some of the flooded areas as captured by some of you who were stuck in it. So Nayele is in Teshi and tells us that she is still struggling to find her way to work. Let's connect with her to find out for the least what's been happening. Now, thank you for joining us. Where are you now? And try and describe the situation there for us.
Hello?
Now, if you can hear me, can you let us know where you are?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, so where are you, and can you describe the situation for us?
Within the Teshi wide states, I actually went round in circles because the main road is blocked due to the construction work going on there. And then, I wanted to access the main road because I thought it was easier to get to. But all the way, I realized that there was heavy traffic from the Legma Polyclinic area, you know, only to get inside the estate to see that the whole place was filled with water. Usually when it rains heavily like this, the bridges are, you know, just... And so the second turning from the Nat hostel over there, you know, was just something else. And the traffic was so heavy, I had to actually make a detour.
Not this one.
You know, so I've moved from there. But the traffic is just killing around that place.
Interesting. So how long have you been in the traffic?
I've been there. I mean, it takes me usually 10 minutes to get to the main road. I've been there 45 minutes just roaming about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. How about, you know, the others you've seen, other commuters who are stuck with you?
The others? Please repeat the question.
How are your now colleague commuters who are also stuck in traffic? How are they managing? How do you see them trying to get out of this traffic?
In fact, it was a taxi driver who told me the way this traffic is, he turned and, made a detour and told me, you can't go because the main road was blocked, which I didn't know, and they all need to move forward to find that, So other cars are also managing to go through, and there's a particular bridge that has so much mud. People's houses are actually filled with water. It's not easy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you are still in the traffic as we speak?
No, I just left the traffic.
You just left it.
There.
Okay, yes. Interesting. So instead of spending 10 minutes, you spent 45 minutes in the traffic. Thank you very much, Nayeli, for joining us with that. So that is to tell you the situation in the capital city after Tuesday morning's downpour. Also keeping an eye on this particular one, and we'll bring you any update on this development. But government is putting finishing touches to its economic data to present to the International Monetary Fund for the engagement to secure a bailout package. The team is expected to in Accra today from Washington, D.C. for negotiations to begin from tomorrow. Joy Business News editor George Uyafe joins us in studio on what more to expect during this engagement. George, thank you very much. What do we know when the team, do we know when the team will be arriving in the country today?
Well, if you want to stick to the Ministry of Finance document or statement they issued earlier on, they are talking about them arriving today. Okay. If you want to stick to what the IMF is saying, they have said that they should be in town on the 6th for negotiations to start. Looking at normally their flight engagements, they would touch down in the evening. So maybe they'll touch down this evening and negotiations or discussions will start from tomorrow. Just like what we've been told earlier on, government on its side, they are getting their documents together so that if the fund calls for some document that we want something on the latest update on our debt situation, they'll be able to provide it. So government itself has already put in its document together. Already we've seen a document being put out by the Ministry of Finance about some Q&A. It tells you that government had put its document together long before last week when the official announcement came out that they are indeed going to begin some formal engagement. So these data are being put together to ensure that they can engage the fund if they should call for anything. And that is what we understand, that on government side, they are ready to engage the fund when they come in. When they also come in, they will be calling for some data on the economy with respect to some sectors and all those things. And that will give them a fair idea about what will be the next line of action. If you read through the Ministry of Finance Q&A document about the IMF, you get a fair idea about the government's economic program that will be putting together. And even if you go through the International Monetary Fund's own press release that they've issued ahead of the engagement, it tells you that they will be looking forward to government's own economic program that will be putting ahead, and then they will give their stamp of approval. If you go again through that same document, the Ministry of Finance is insisting that this is not a bailout, this is an economic program that they are putting forward, and they're looking forward to the fund approving it for them.
But any difference between the bailout and the
So bailout basically it connotes that you are in crisis and you need immediate funds to kind of turn things around. But according to government, the argument is that they don't think that we are in crisis. They feel that they need some financial assistance and also some policy credibility to turn things around. And therefore, that is why the fund itself, or one would say that the new IMF is now trying to push this whole argument that any country that applies for a program, we want you to tell us what the problems are and how are you working to address those problems, and then we will approve it. So government, from the document again, government is hoping that they can close this negotiations within the next 7 months. And then the program could take off maybe in the next 8th or maybe even a year for the program to take off. So for government, they would want to put forward a program for some kind of policy credibility and then some balance of payment support. And that, they claim, shouldn't be put forward as a bailout, as in them in financial crisis, and therefore without the support from the fund, nothing can be done.
Interesting. So it means that even this program that we're going for, we are not expecting it to roll out this year.
It depends on how negotiations pan out. We understand that our debt situation will be a major point of discussion during this meeting. So if things go as smooth as we are all expecting, then maybe all other things being equal, the program maybe should take off next year.
Okay.
That is, if things should go as smooth as planned. But if it drags and there are arguments and there are fights about how things should be done, maybe even in the middle of next year or something. Yeah.
Okay, and once it's negotiation, these things are expected to happen. Agreement and disagreement over what
calculations, how things should be done, why certain programs should be captured. The fund would typically want to look at how, and as we explained earlier on, one major area that these negotiations will focus on is how to reduce your total debt stock. So what are the other areas that are seen as the extras, quote? If some of government has said that they were going to maintain some of their social intervention programs, but it is not for you to have that 100% commitment that it was going to happen. During the negotiation, if the fund believes that some of these commitment that you are advancing funds towards is not needed, and if you have to do a crash program to bring your debt situation under control, maybe you might have to review some of these programs. Okay. Can we have a situation where even the free SHS, those who can afford to pay, would pay? But if you also look at the fund again, in every program, they are more concerned about how the poor in society can be protected. So a program like LEAP, they might even be pushing for more funding for that area. How do they ensure that any program, any fund program, doesn't affect the poor in society? So any program that is well targeted at the less privileged society, the fund will seek to protect it. Okay. That's why they are against subsidizing fuel for those who are using V8.
Okay, interesting. So that's George Weafi. He's still with me. But let's go take you through what the Finance Ministry has put out in terms of your frequently asked questions as to how you can really understand what government is going to do with this. Now, what on your screen now is what government, the Ministry of Finance has put together. It says, why has Ghana decided to seek support from the IMF? Well, the answers are that government wants to go to the IMF for balance of payment support, for concessional, cheaper financing to shore up international reserves, stabilize the cedi, which is going through a lot now, continue smooth payment for imports, including petroleum product, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, among others, and to restore conditions for strong, economic performance. Also, they are going to the IMF to provide catalytic effect of assessing additional financing from third parties, in friendly sovereigns and commercial creditors, including resuming ICM market access sooner than later. Also, to facilitate credit rating upgrades. Recently, we've had some downgrading, and so going to the IMF will ensure that we have some upgrade there. One other question people ask is, what type of lending will Ghana get under an IMF-supported program? Government says it is yet to engage the IMF on the type of support that will be suitable for Ghana. Typically, IMF lending is for balance of payment support. Therefore, depending on the assessment of the macroeconomic challenges, the IMF's various lending instruments are tailored to different types of balance of payment need, as well as the specific circumstances of its diverse membership. Another question that people do ask on this whole program with the IMF is, how long will it take for the negotiations between Ghana and the IMF to be concluded? Now, the answer given is that IMF-supported program negotiations take some time to be concluded, and you heard George allude to that earlier. Depending on the availability of data to assess the macroeconomic situation, the readiness and suitability of the government's economic program and nature, and feasibility of any prior conditions to be completed by government, program negotiations can be quick or protracted for up to 6 months or more. And you heard George tell us earlier that it could take us to next year. So that's what the Finance Ministry is also alluding to there. George, so just as you said.
Even from the Finance Ministry statement, I mean, if you want to hold all factors constant, a program would not kick off this year. All other things being equal, it will take off next year. And that would depend on how updated their economic data is. And that is why we understand that since last week, they've been finalizing this data, crossing the T's, dotting the I, because you want to make sure that some of these data doesn't delay the program, so that you are set, you are complete, to engage the fund, then how prepared you are and how prepared you, the person who's requesting for the program, to make some concessions would help. Again, don't forget that government is not just looking for the money, but also looking forward to the market responding. In that statement, they spoke about market access. How can they go back to the Eurobond market, where in the past program, we had the World Bank coming on board to use their AAA to support Ghana, and even the IMF as well. That will bring down your cost of borrowing. Already, just the news about government saying that we'll go for a fund program has impacted our 2027 Eurobond. It has dropped from 23% to 19%. So if our interest servicing cost is one of our biggest spending items, this is what a fund program will do to the country.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, George. Now, still on this, the Universities Association of Ghana, UTAG, is warning government ahead of its engagement with the International Monetary Fund that it will not tolerate any IMF conditionality that negatively affect the existing agreement between government and UTAG to improve the conditions of service of its members. The university teachers, in a statement, said although it's ready to provide technical support, government must ensure that decisions taken will not be to the disadvantage of labor unions, especially UTAG. Now, joining us on Zoom for more on this is UTAG Secretary Dr. Asare Asante Ano. Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us. You seem to suggest that going to the IMF has not proven to be sustainable. What alternatives have you proposed in the past and any you would propose now?
So thank you and good morning to your viewers. From our statement and with the consultation with our experts, we've seen that it's like over the past 30 years, we seem to be going back to the IMF. And therefore, we concluded that definitely then we are not doing something right. And therefore, one of the solutions we suggested was that we have homegrown experts that could be consulted, and these experts should be an all-inclusive, so it shouldn't be because of party A, party B, or party C. Then these experts will come up with policies that will guide the country for proper economic management, which would also be sustainable.
Well, but in the past, have you proposed any way government could handle managing the economy than to run to the IMF?
Yes, so our experts informed us that, for example, in 2013, they met in Senchi and then they had a 40-year program. Along the line, these were not adhered to. We've had a couple of reports, which probably you might be aware. So for such programs to be effective, it should be in the nature a national agenda. It shouldn't be an agenda. And so normally they run more than the 4 years, which is required by our political system. So sometimes it's a 20-year program, 40-year program. And they have suggested that this is the only way that we should go as a country.
Well, according to the government, a statement they've put out today to explain, they say one of the reasons why we're going to the IMF is for concessional and cheaper financing to show up our international reserves, to stabilize the cedi, to continue smooth payment of import, including petroleum products, pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, among others, and to restore economic conditions for strong economic growth, including support for government flagship programs, while correcting underlying problems. Now, how is this a problem for government to run to the IMF?
The issue is not running to the IMF. The issue is about maintaining fiscal discipline. Our experts have shown us from the data that have been sometimes less than even 3 years, we still run back. And like in my initial statement, then it means something is fundamentally wrong, irrespective of the government in power. And therefore, I mean, for this particular one, they would have good and enough reasons why they want to go. But ask ourselves is, would it solve the problem? Would it be the last one, or would we still be going for the 19th one?
So Doc, with this, where you said that they might have some reasons why they are going. What do you expect to be done to ensure that we do not run back to the IMF? Because you are talking about homegrown solutions. What must be done?
Exactly. So first of all, UTAC said that we have the experts, which is indeed true. Even in the media, they've already been commenting. And we also emphasize that it should be all-inclusive, the experts who are homegrown, because sometimes when people come from abroad, they profile solutions which might not necessarily suit what we already have. From your prior discussion, there are already some socio-economic situations which are pertinent to the Ghana situation. So these homegrown experts are already aware, and they would give policies or recommendations based on this. And also, like I said, it should be a national program. It shouldn't be political, because you realize that even from your analysis and from other media, this might even go beyond a year. Sometimes it's even can be 2 or 3 years, which means it can go beyond one government to another government. Therefore, these experts should be assembled. First of all, most of the policies are technical. For example, I've heard this morning a lot of stations talking about food, for example. Are we able to provide enough food for the country? If no, what do we need to do? These are technical questions. Is the rain-fed agriculture enough? If we need irrigation, what can we do? All these are technical questions. Development, infrastructure, the roads that we have, when they are built, how long are they supposed to last? Are they lasting that long, or deteriorates quickly? All these questions should be answered. And we believe strongly that it is only the experts who will be able to guide the policymakers and government to be able to come up with sustainable economic policies, which will then manage our fiscal policy, so that it's not, we do not overspend, or we are able to generate enough revenue, and so our income and expenditure is checked.
Interesting. Now, you say you would not tolerate any IMF conditionality that negatively affect the existing agreement between government and your union in relation to the payment of conditions of service allowance to your members. Government says it does not have the revenue to honor some of its obligations. What do you expect government to do now?
Okay, thank you. And exactly so, again, it goes back to experts. Why experts? Because labor, as you have also discussed with other panelists, plays a very crucial role. Labor would affect the productivity. Now you are getting certain packages from the IMF, but you would need the labor front. And what UTAC is saying is that we've had prior discussion, not only UTAC. If you notice, TUC also made a statement that the IMF package should not disadvantage workers. As we speak now, 4 teacher unions are already on strike. So all that we are saying is that we should have a package that should also serve in the interest of the public worker. And with UTAC in particular, we already had an arrangement with government. We were all aware of the strike. We had to call it off because of an interim measure. And so it is important that even with this economic situation, our members are still suffering. And so it is prudent that whatever engagement is done, they also factor it. And it's important because now they are going to engage. And there are certain sectors which will need to be considered. And that's where the experts again will come in. Because you see, cutting down expenditure and all of that, you will need to determine which area is crucial. And if you don't do it properly, then you might get a package, but the workforce will not be there, and then productivity is going to be severely affected.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Asante Ano, for joining us here. He is the General Secretary for the UTAC there. You're still watching the Joy News desk here on the Joy News channel. Now, thousands of students in public tertiary institutions across the country are today without teachers as the strike of 4 teacher unions sets in. The unions, NAGRAT, NAT, TEWU and CCT, say government must pay them 20% of their base pay as an allowance to cushion them against the economic crisis facing the country. We'll take you across the country for an update on the situation in the various schools. First though, here is Manuel Cranton's report from the declaration.
These are angry workers in Ghana's educational sector who say they will no longer endure the current harsh economic conditions without any cushioning from government. They want to be paid a cost of living allowance of up to 20% of their basic salary, a request government has failed to meet. To press home their demands, they say they are compelled to abandon their post. Thomas Musa is General Secretary of Ghana National Association of Teachers.
By the high level of inflation in the country, the incessant skyrocketing prices of fuel, goods and services have eroded the already woefully so-called salary increase granted us. We are very much appalled at the inaptitude of the government relative to our call for COLA. We have severally, on different platforms and times, made this call, which fell on deaf ears of government. We have decided to embark on a strike action effective today.
Behind these demands are real people who took up the teaching job to make impact. Many of them, like Vida Sapabil, are regretting.
Everybody is struggling. Now it is better. 2 months ago, I was buying 1 tomatoes for 2 cedi. So if I prepare banku and I want to grind pepper to eat, I have to go and buy 1 tomatoes for 2 cedi. I regret taking to teaching. I have classmates. After SSS, they didn't continue their education. They went straight to the army. One of them is a WO right now, as I speak. And he's taking 8,000 plus at the end of every month. I have gone to training college. I've gone to the university, done my first degree, done my master's, and I'm still roaming around 2,000. How do I survive? They call for old school meeting. I don't go. The living conditions are 2 different things. When they are come, they are excited, they are talking, and maybe they bring along food and drinks and they are chilling, more relaxed. I can be there, but I won't be relaxed. So I don't even go at all.
Another teacher at the Akrabong Basic School in the Central Region, Amos Amwako, feels neglected by the state, which contracted him to help build future leaders.
I sometimes run my household on loans, and it is not a wise way of living. Because if you are going to take a financial facility or a loan, it should be used for developmental activity. But you go for loans and then you spend it at home. Then you pay interest on it. Then your existence is not even profitable. You don't even feel like you are even existing. If a better job comes, why not? Because a graduate teacher taking home around 2,000. When you do second degree, GES will tell you that they don't recognize it. And the cost of training, courses at the universities are very expensive now. Somebody goes through to do a second degree, and you tell the person that the second degree is not needed at the pre-tertiary level. So then the cost of entering into that course you will not get any productivity out of it. So if a better job comes, why not?
Like Vida and Amos, all workers in the educational sector in NAT, TEWU, CCT, and NAGRAT have been called to proceed on strike, effective immediately.
By this, we are informing the general public that we are withdrawing all our services in all the pre-tertiary education space. These include teaching and non-teaching staff.
The only thing that will get them back to work is the payment of their COLA. Manuel Cranting, JoyNews, Accra.
Well, this morning, there's an effort to keep the schools open in spite of the strike. The Ghana Education Service has directed heads of the schools to keep them open. The National Labour Commission has also asked government to engage the teacher unions, and we have statement from these two bodies. Now, let's start with a statement from the GES. It says that the management of the Ghana Education Service has read from the media that the various unions in the pre-tertiary education sector have declared withdrawal of their services with immediate effect. Management has since invited the leadership of the unions to a meeting to discuss the development and the way forward. Heads of senior high schools have been directed through the regional and district directors to mobilize their management teams to ensure the safety and well-being of all students in schools. Meanwhile, parents are advised to remain calm and be assured that management is closely monitoring the situation and will advise on the way forward accordingly. Regional and district directors have further been directed to ensure that basic school heads keep schools opened and closely supervise all children who report to school pending further directives from management of GS. And this is signed by Cassandra Chum Ampofo, who's head of public relations. Now, the National Labour Commission has also directed government to immediately meet with the striking workers. According to their statement, will be on your screen shortly. Now, it says that the teacher unions mentioned above have in a joint press conference held today, Monday, 4th July 2022, announced the declaration of strike with immediate effect. Now, the declaration of the strike, according to the statement, is due to what they describe as government's failure to grant them a 20% cost of living allowance in the face of the current high level of inflation, increases in price of goods and services, etc. Now, you're hereby requested to engage the aggrieved teacher unions immediately upon receipt of this correspondence to negotiate settlement of their grievances within 7 days and furnish the commission with a report upon completion. With this intervention, we urge the teacher unions to rescind the decision and discontinue the strike action to pave way for the process of engagement to ensue. Now, we have some of our correspondents on the line to give us some briefs. First, let's start from Martina. Martina, what's the situation like at where you are?
Is that they have admitted a strike, and so all the schools that I've been to like 5 schools. These schools have all closed. You go there and all you see are locked doors. The kids themselves are gone. Just a few hanging around and playing. Apart from that, you don't find any teacher in any of these schools that I have visited. Now, the strike is beginning to have an effect already, because Form 3 students are complaining that they don't have the time to wait, and classes should have been on by now. Their teachers guiding them on what to do. They believe that if this strike should go beyond 2-3 days, it's going to have a total effect on them. Not only they are complaining, food vendors who came to school this morning with food are equally complaining. Some perishable, they can't stay overnight. And so they think that government should address this issue, because it's not only the teachers that it would affect various families who also depend on these schools to sell to be able to take care of their families.
Martina Bugri is our Northern Regional Correspondent. Let's move to Ivy Setoji. Ivy, what's the situation like around your area? Ivy Setoji, if you can hear me, kindly paint for us what the situation is like in your area. All right, so before we move to Ivy, let's bring you a footage of some students in the Volta region and how stranded they are because of the strike.
What school do you attend? Korea.
Korea, where is Korea?
Inside the middle of California.
Okay.
So, Ivy, what's the situation like? We just saw a video. How widespread is, the impact of this on students in your area? Ivy, if you can hear me, we want to find out from you how the situation is in your area in the wake of the strike.
Okay, so currently I am at the Hodomei Basic School, where they are currently having their reading festival. That's some 23 basic schools. So teachers and heads are all here, with the school children all gathered for the reading festival. We understand some of them are also having sporting activities at the Hotspot Stadium. Earlier on, when I visited the Hokoji A and B basic schools, I saw the headmistress at the Hokoji A basic school supervising the children, because according to her, the children are already in school, and then it was very necessary for her to make sure that the children are safe. So she was going to wait in the school until every child goes home. The same thing applies to the Kokoji B basic school, where I saw just one teacher with the school children playing. So most of the schools, they had the head and a few teachers supervising just for today, so that the parents will get to know that they are on strike, and then from tomorrow they don't come back to school. So for now, that is what is happening. I've been speaking to the headmistress at the Hokoji A Business School, and also some of the school children.
Now, from the Volta region, let's move to the Central region, where Richard Kunyako is standing by with update on that. Rich, what is happening in the Central region? All right, so just before we go to the Central region, let's take you to Nanaya Ajuma in the Ashanti region to find out how the strike is biting in that region. Nanaya, what is the situation like in your area?
So the situation is not different from what's being experienced by other regions. Almost all of the schools in the region that I've visited this morning, Kumasi to be specific, classrooms are open. Some students came to school this morning despite the rain, with the hope of catching their teachers in school and getting the education that they always come to school to receive. But unfortunately, though the classrooms are open, their teachers are nowhere to be found except the head teachers, who are on standby to ensure that the classrooms are open and the students are also safe within the school premises. So I moved from Kasi MA Basic School to Citizenmental MA Basic School, Adibaba Basic School, and also the new Asafo Basic School, and all these schools have the school premises open for just absent. I'm interacting with some of the students, and some told me specifically that the previous day the headmistress announced that they should all be present in school. The classrooms were open. They were not told about the strike by the teachers. So they were coming with the expectation that the teachers will come and things will continue as they've always come to school to meet. But unfortunately, they came with no teacher. But the head teachers are around, but they are yet to communicate anything to these students. And the students, as they always do in the morning, they came out early enough, and some of them started speaking and going about their normal activities. Those in the lower primary and also kindergarten, most of them had this morning, due to the absence of teachers, go on the school compound and playing games and indulging in any activity that they would want to. But engaging with those in the upper primary, they told me that if their teachers are absent, they will go about revising what they do and wait for the head teachers to close them for them to go home. So that's
from that's from the Ashanti region. Let's move to their neighbors, the Central region, and speak to Richard Kojo, who is in the capital, Cape Coast. Kojo, what is the situation in the Central region?
Well, so the strike is in full force. I've been to about 6 schools. Basically, it is the basic schools that are badly affected. The parents brought the children to school, but most of them, they got the signs, and so they had to send back their children. But others remain on the campuses. You go to the schools. I went to St. Lawrence. I went to other schools within the Cape Coast metropolis. The children were seen playing, and so the teachers that are supposed to be in the class were not there. So you could see only the head teachers that are in the school. The doors of the schools were open, but the classroom, because the teachers were not there, the classrooms were not open. So now the students have been told that they are on strike. And so from tomorrow, many of the parents I spoke with said that they were not going to bring the school children to school until they hear that they have called off the strike. At the senior high school level, even though the teachers, the teachers there are also part of the strike. Some of the schools I visited that were board in school, the teachers were not in the classrooms though, but the students were in class and they were learning. They were doing the academic activities by themselves, and so that is the nature of the strike as far as the region is concerned.
All right, now moving on to other stories. It is an undeniable fact that behind the most successful men and women in our society, there are some great teachers. But teachers' daily sacrifice and hard work in shaping the minds and lives of future leaders is inadequately rewarded. The current harsh economic conditions have worsened their situation. Mamiesi Nyamiche Thompson gauges how Moses and Ernestina survive in today's Living Standard series.
One thing that is easing the stress is my wife.
We just don't know how we do it, but we survive.
If I'm to put all the loans together, I have about 39,000 cedis to pay.
When you come in contact with the kids, they make you forget whatever you're going through.
A popular African saying goes, a teacher's reward is in heaven. This saying holds a lot of truth because although teaching is an essential profession, many teachers receive inadequate pay. For the past 12 years, Moses Ayi has been instructing junior high school students in a public school in Pobikope. He is extremely passionate about his work, and despite his meager pay, he has no plans to pursue any other line of work.
I've been teaching for 12 years. It's my passion. It was okay when I started. Especially when I was single, the money that was coming was enough to take care of me and even my mom.
Moses gets paid 2,500 cedis per month. However, 1,000 cedis is taken out of his paycheck to pay off debt. His wife, mother, and 4 children all depend on his monthly balance of 1,500 cedis.
If I'm to put all the loans together, let's say I have about 39,000 cedis. 39,000 cedis to pay. So the one at controller is deducting around 715 or so, and the one with my bag is deducting 300 Ghana cedis, making let's say 1,000, yeah, around 1,000.
But
So you're still watching the news desk here on the Joy News channel. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest in business. Stay with us.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to business. My name is Darryl Kwao. FBN Bank Ghana Limited has indicated that the bank's operations have not been affected by the implementation of the electronic transaction levy and the linkage of the Ghana card to individual accounts. According to the managing director and newly elected district governor for the Rotary International District 9102, Victoria Asante, the bank has put measures in place for formidable digital transaction platforms to vet inconsistencies in the process. He spoke to Joy Business during his appointment.
At the Rotary event, Managing Director of FBN Bank Ghana Limited, Victor Yao Asante, assumed office as Governor of Rotary District 9102, which include Benin, Ghana, Niger, and Togo. He reaffirmed to Joy Business that he will promote other areas in all districts and carry on the work of his predecessors.
So we will continue to deliver on service, which is our core mandate, to try and work with our communities to solve the problems at the community level, working with the people of the communities. So our mandate is to continue to do those, especially focusing on the areas of service that we like, what we call the 7 areas of focus, which is disease, mother and child health, environment, and economic empowerment. So these are the things we'll be doing in the districts to try and make sure we continue to help districts our Rotary way.
According to him, the operations of the bank has not been affected by the directives from the government on the Ghana card and the electronic transfer levy.
Well, it's a policy. It's a policy. We are citizens. So once the policy is passed, we just implement it. We just go ahead with it. And we've been asked as a collective organization to implement a policy of government. So we are happy to do that. Ghana card is just to help us do a KYC. So they've asked us to target to. So we started and we've done that also. So far, so good. We'll see how it goes. I believe they are still registering, so you should still register. So it started today. Today the implementation started. There was no client who complained that they couldn't get access to banking because they didn't have the Ghana card. Because we have gone ahead and done for almost all, if not all.
Mr. Asante's role as district governor calls for him to oversee the activities of the international humanitarian organization in the 4 nations that make up his district, ensuring the effective delivery of aid and benefit to underprivileged groups and individuals in line with the organization's goal.
And check out our website, myjoyonline.com/business for more business stories. Up next, sports.
So it's now time for us to bring you sports here on News Desk, and Mubarak is already with me in studio. Mubarak, good morning.
Yes,
what do we have?
Yes, you see the man behind me. It's called Mohamed Salisu. Now he has agreed. He's here to release an official statement, but Joy Sports can authoritatively confirm that he's ready to feature for the Black Stars after so many years of rejecting call-ups. You know, the Black Stars, we started chasing Salisu since 2019, from Kwesi Appiah to C.K. Akono to Milovan Rahevac and the current head coach, Otoado. They've all spoken to him. And his reasons were simple. He wasn't fit. He wanted to be fit, integrate himself into the lineup of Southampton, become a starter. And then he wants to be considered as one of the best players in the world before he plays for the Black Stars.
So was that the reason he gave?
Yeah, that was the reason he gave.
No, I didn't hear that reason. He was giving reasons as to that there's been some attempt in the past, you know,
it wasn't
some
true.
Misunderstandings.
It wasn't true.
Really?
I can confidently confirm. Okay. I have spoken, my sources close to the player have told me that no FA official has taken any money before from Mohamed Salisu in exchange of a Black Stars call-up.
Okay.
So it's him who made a decision. He wants to be ready before featuring for the Black Stars, and he said he is ready. So let's wait and see.
Let's see how it ends up. There's Black Stars and there's a World Cup in there. So
there's a call-up in September before the Qatar one. So hopefully he'll be in the squad.
Anyway, and that's how we wrap up today's edition of News Desk here on the Joy News channel. There's more news on myjoyonline.com. My name is Samuel Kojo. Brace. Enjoy the rest of our shows. Good morning.